Run it back, Philly. No frauds, no fanboys, no intros.
Let me know in the chat if you think this is possible. This is from All Clippers Fan Nation. So this is written by Clippers, writers. And so it's in the perspective of, trying to benefit the LA Clippers. Both the LA Clippers and Philadelphia 76ers face a lot of major questions this offseason, with the Sixers having already fired Doc Rivers, hired Nick Nurse, James Harden's contract extension. We know that, while Harden's free agency looms. They do have the massive contract of Tobias Harris that still includes a guaranteed $39.2 million for next. They gotta get rid of it, bro. The Sixers have to get off that. I thought they've been having to get off of this contract, but I think this upcoming season is the last straw. You absolutely cannot come into this upcoming season paying Tobias Harris $39.2 million. You can't do it. You absolutely cannot do it. While Harris is a productive role player, this contract is one that has limited Philadelphia's roster building options, which could push them to seek potential trade partners now that it's finally expiring. Well, it pushed them to seek potential trade partners already. They've been trying to trade this guy basically since the second year of this contract. He's never been worth the contract. You were never going to trade him. Now they will seek to trade him even heavier, yes, now that the contract is finally expiring. The NBA draft is coming up on June 22nd. The Philadelphia 76ers have absolutely zero draft picks this season. Why? Because they traded all their first-round picks over the course of the last couple of years, and they lost their second-round pick for tampering because Daryl Morey's an idiot. We can't even watch the NBA draft this year. The Sixers don't have a draft pick. So I would like to think that Tobias Harris Daryl Morey's really going to push to trade Tobias Harris before the draft. I really, really think that. I really, really think that, and that excites me because the draft is just a couple of weeks away. In a recent article from Bleacher Report's Greg Wirtz, a reunion between Tobias Harris and the LA Clippers was proposed, with Harris heading back to Los Angeles in a deal that sends Eric Gordon, Marcus Morris, and LA's 2023 second-round pick to Philadelphia. Hey! Do you want Eric Gordon? I don't know. Does he have anything left in the tank? I don't know. I would have probably preferred Eric Gordon over PJ Tucker, to be totally honest with you, after I watched PJ Tucker this last season. Marcus Morris, he's not the good one, right? Markieff is the good one, right? Either way, I think they're both kind of on the downside of their career and on their way out. I like the dog mentality of a Morris brother. But the players in this trade scenario don't really have much to do with it at all anyway. What I'm saying is, if you can trade Tobias Harris to the Clippers for the Clippers' 2023 second-round pick, that's a win-win. That's a win-win for me. You get rid of the Tobias Harris contract. You get a couple of players in Eric Gordon and Marcus Morris. Maybe they're expiring. Maybe you buy it. Maybe there's a buyout. Maybe they still have value and you throw them in the rotation. But you get back into the NBA draft. You get his 2023 second-round pick from LA, and then Eastwood gets to watch the draft and actually care about it. But seriously, I've for a couple years now, I've been like, what's the possible way you can get rid of Tobias Harris? I haven't seen a single real possible way you could get rid of him. Something like this might be a real possible way that you get rid of Tobias Harris and you get a 2023 second-round pick in return. If you can get rid of the Tobias Harris expiring contract without having to throw anything in, I'm all for that. But I don't know if, For the Clippers, this trade idea sends out two expiring contracts for one bigger expiring contract while also bringing back a talent upgrade. Harris would slide into the starting forward position previously occupied by Morris, which would give LA much-needed production in a position which lacked any consistency last season. I don't know if this writer watched Tobias Harris play basketball this past season. He was good against bad teams, didn't show up against any good teams. That's how he usually is. But is he better than Marcus Morris at this stage of his career? Quite possibly. For Philadelphia, this would finally free them of the Tobias Harris contract while bringing back 2 veterans on expiring deals that could either be implemented into the rotation or flipped in additional trades. So there's that one. I like that. Again, if you get rid of Tobias Harris's contract and you turn it into anything, let alone Eric Gordon, Marcus Morris, and a second-round pick, sign me up. Sign me up for that. And this is the last one I'm going to talk about today. How the Sixers could swing a Fred VanVleet sign and trade this offseason. Fred VanVleet is under contract. He has 1 year left on his contract, right? Yeah. Sixers could swing a Fred VanVleet sign and trade this offseason. Now, I'm telling you straight up right now, before I even read this article, if this even says Tyrese Maxey's name, I'm turning off the live and I'm going about my day. Because Fred VanVleet is just a player that I said the Sixers should look at if James Harden walks, because he's a facilitating point guard who can shoot a 3-point shot. That's the only reason. I never said Fred VanVleet is a game changer. I never said Fred VanVleet's going to put the Sixers over the hump and lead them to an NBA championship. Nobody in their right mind thinks that. It's just that if James Harden walks, you probably want a point guard next to Tyrese Maxey who can get him the damn ball. That's what I think. Now, here's the sign and trade idea written by David Dow. No, that's the photographer. Brian Toporek of Liberty Ballers. After hiring Nick Nurse as their new head coach, the Sixers might not. Let me zoom in here. After Nick Nurse, the Sixers might not be done adding former members of Toronto Raptors this offseason. If James Harden leaves for the Houston Rockets, the Sixers could perhaps try to replace him by acquiring Fred VanVleet. VanVleet himself recently seemed to hint at that possibility. Talking about Nick Nurse when the Sixers hired him, he said, I think he'll have some success. Hopefully not too much if I'm not there and I'm staying in Toronto. Damn, he did say that. Wow. There are realistic pathways for the Sixers to acquire VanVleet, but some are far more complicated than others. The easiest way for VanVleet to wind up in Philadelphia would be if he picks up his $22 million player option next season as part of a trade. The Sixers could offer him an extension right away as part of an extended trade, but barring any changes to the new CBA, they'd be limited to tackling only 2 more years of 5% annual increase. If they waited 6 months to sign him to an extension, that could offer him another 4 years of starting salary, or nearly $32 million. Yeah, I'm not paying Fred VanVleet no $32 million. I know that for a fact if I'm the GM. If VanVleet is unwilling to pick up his player option and insists on becoming a free agent, the Sixers would instead have to convince the Raptors to sign and trade him. 2 major obstacles stand in the way of that. Since VanVleet will presumably receive a starting salary above $19 million on his new contract, I guess I don't really fathom how big the NBA salary cap keeps going up. $20 million a year for a guy like Fred VanVleet sounds a little bit crazy to me, if I'm being honest with you. The Sixers would, let's see, he could have a starting salary of $19.6 million. The Sixers could take back no more than 125% of the salary they send out in the deal, plus $100,000. Joel Embiid and Tobias Harris, the only 2 players on the roster earning more than $12 million next season, and the former isn't going anywhere. The Sixers could try talking the Raptors into taking Harris back in a VanVleet sign-and trade. Masai does seemingly have a fetish for power forwards after all, but that might require the Raptors to send out more salary depending on how much VanVleet. So Tobias in a VanVleet sign-and trade, if that works money-wise and you get rid of the Tobias Harris contract and you bring back a point guard if James Harden walks, yeah, I'm all for that.